Yeah, so the tricky thing about being a minister is, unlike you all, we are not trained to be counselors or
Right.
therapists. And so what I always say is we know enough to get in trouble. So what I often will say, if somebody wants to talk about their sexual orientation or their struggle, I can be a confidant, a companion in the journey. I can sit and listen. I can offer, this is what I experienced. I don't know if you're experiencing, things like that. Um, the reality is, if they have more deeply seated stuff, is I have a therapist referral list that I say, and most of the therapists on that list are will see people on a sliding scale, accept insurance, things like that. And so, what I always kind of my rule of thumb is, if we can't really talk it out or deal with it in 2 1-hour sit downs with me, then you've probably gone beyond my skill set. And so I'm going to send them to someone like you all and say, there's probably more deeply seated stuff here that I don't have the skills to be able to deal with. So yeah, for instance, today I have 2 appointments this afternoon. One is with a young man who is just got accepted to seminary, is going to go to Perkins at SMU, but is worried about being out and kind of wants to know, what do you think I should do? What was your experience? Things like that. And then I have a quasi counseling session, touch base with a young man in our congregation who is currently in seminary but is battling some addiction issues, and so is having to take a leave of absence from his seminary. And so he just kind of wants to talk through some of those issues and things like that. So, not a drug and alcohol counselor, but more just listening and hearing what he's going through. And he's getting the treatment that he needs, but he just kind of wants. What often happens is that most therapists, my experience, most therapists and counselors don't want to deal with the religious issue or the spiritual issue. And frankly, that's probably good, to be candid. But at the same time, like, it's not good for me to deal with, to play pretend therapist or counselor. And so oftentimes we have people that will be in therapy dealing with whatever issues they're dealing with, and then they'll come to us and want to talk about the spiritual issues, or, okay, so I'm experiencing all this, where's God in this? Because this hurts like hell, and I don't understand where God is, and things like that. And so that tends to be more of our role, in that we don't tend to actively seek out people and say, "Hey, do you want to talk?" unless we know of a certain situation. But there's 6 clergy on staff, and most of us, I would tell you, see on an average week 2 to 3 people that want to talk about some aspect of that, and typically it's around their